Before I get into it, I want to start by explaining a few things. First, my parents have never had the healthiest relationship. They have been together for almost 20 years now and have always fought more than normal. Despite that, I knew they held love and care for each other, and they had their moments. I also want to state that they were never the most emotionally nurturing towards me. I have an older brother with low-functioning autism. I also have my own issues. I'm sort of emotionally incompetent. I say all this so that you know I am not very good at emotions and apologize for anything in this post that is a result of that. Moving on. During the summer, my mother started to go out to the bar or club very late. She would leave any time after 10 p.m. and not return until 3 a.m. or even 4. She would be calm, but then it seemed like she was hit by an urge to get out of the house, just get ready, and leave. She would go alone or with her friends. She would do this every weekend, and my dad did not like it. And so they fought. And as time passed, it got worse and worse. My dad would tell her that it was dangerous to drive in such a dark area after drinking. He would tell her that fights in these places were common and could end in shots being fired. He also thought that this kind of behavior was that of someone who was single and not for a married woman with children. He worried that men would hit on her, and on these days, he would not be able to sleep until she came back. She did not care about what he had to say and would lash out. She did not spend any time with us anymore either. He would accompany her sometimes, but couldn't do so every time. He was in a car accident a few years back and still suffers from his injuries to this day, and also has a stressful job. He needs his rest. My mom also has a stressful job. They require overtime, and she would say she needs to go out to de-stress, though she always complains about being tired and not getting enough sleep. A few months back, she started to stay as late as 8 p.m. working. She would not say anything, not a single text or call about when she'd be home or if she was even going to stay longer or not. Now I believe that it was an excuse to see that man. It has gotten worse as time has passed. My dad started sleeping in the guest bedroom. The fights were more frequent. There were times she did not want to even be near him. My dad was starting to believe that she was becoming an alcoholic, as she seemed to have such an insatiable need to go out to drink, or that there was another man. He talks to me a lot about this situation, and I always lend an ear. Last week, it was at its worst. They had another big fight. It was midnight, and she suddenly started getting ready to go out again. He didn't want her to leave, and she accused him of starting a fight to make it too late for her to go out. They both said some things. She started to pack up her things and get in the car to stay at my grandma's place for the night. I was in the same room for this fight, and the accumulated stress of everything was getting to me. I started crying. My dad hugged me and ran out to tell her. I'm not very outwardly emotional at all. I suppose she was shocked, and it ended up with her staying. She told me she wanted to talk to me. She told me she was tired of this relationship and believed we would all be better off without him. She said she had already made the decision. I didn't think she would cheat on him, but I was obviously wrong. I found out on Tuesday. She has been being nicer to my dad lately and talking to him more often. He thinks it's because she wants something from him since she's going to a Halloween party to celebrate her birthday. Her birthday is on the 29th and needs a ride. On Tuesday, she asked me to text my dad to ask when he'd be home. I texted him, but I couldn't stop myself from looking through her other messages out of curiosity. I knew it was bad, but I couldn't help it. I needed to see. I regret this now. I found a weird contact name and decided to open the chat. It was some guy. The last text was from her. She was angry at him for some reason. I scrolled up and skimmed the texts. I saw messages asking when she would get off work, or what she'd eaten, or how she was. I was trembling, my heart pounding as I read the messages. I was trying to convince myself that perhaps it was just a friend, but I know she'd never talk to another man like that. And then I saw something that made my heart nearly stop, unclothed from her. I immediately put the phone down, stood up, and told her I was going to shower. I wasn't thinking, and I think I left the chat open. After the shower, I went to talk to her, and her responses seemed clipped. I was pretending nothing happened. I still am. The next day, she asked me if everything was okay. I told her it was. The next day, she asked again, and I responded the same way. My dad wants to buy her a big flower arrangement, balloons, and cake for her birthday on Tuesday. The flowers are nearly $100, and I don't want him to spend that much money on her after finding this out. He has been making these gestures lately to try and mend the relationship. I don't want him to do this anymore, but I have no clue how to tell him. He told me once that if he found out there was another man, he would not want to be with her. I didn't want that, and I still don't. But I don't want my dad to be with a woman who threw away 20 years for some guy. How can I tell him? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Confront your mom. Hold her accountable to you as a daughter who is affected by the betrayal. Talk about how her actions impact the whole family. It's not your place to tell your father, it's hers. A secret can't be a secret for too long when the truth is known and called out. Comment 2. I feel for you. Tell your dad. Maybe see if you can stay with your grandparents for a while. Things may be uncomfortable at home when your dad confronts your mom. It might be better for you to be somewhere safe when this happens. Take care of yourself. Now for the update. 2 weeks after everything came out, my mom had her birthday party. Yeah, I know, not the best timing, but my dad, bless him, really thought it would be a nice distraction from all the drama. So he planned this party at home, invited a bunch of family and friends, and honestly, the vibe was just off. Like super awkward. My mom came home from work a little early to get ready, and my dad was all smiles and excitement. He got her this beautiful piece of jewelry he picked out himself, and he was so proud of it. I can't even describe the look on his face when he gave it to her. So much love and hope, like this gift was gonna magically fix everything. My mom, though, she forced a smile when he gave it to her, but you could tell she was just so distant and distracted the whole time. Like she was there, but her mind was somewhere else. During the party, I noticed her sneaking away a few times to check her phone or make calls outside. I tried to ignore it at first because, she said it was just work stress and all that. But then I heard her arguing with someone on the phone while she was outside, and I couldn't just pretend everything was fine anymore. After the party, my dad was so excited about planning a weekend getaway as a surprise for my mom. He thought it would be a great way for them to reconnect and work on their marriage. I couldn't bring myself to tell him what was really going on. Not yet, anyway. A few days later, I decided to confront my mom again about her suspicious behavior. She just brushed me off, saying she was under a lot of stress from work and that I shouldn't worry about her. I wish I could just take her word for it and move on, but I couldn't. I found this receipt for a hotel stay in her bag while I was helping her pack for the trip my dad had planned. Like, what kind of hotel stay are you checking into if you're going with your husband? When I showed her the receipt and asked her about it, she got all defensive and accused me of invading her privacy. I know I probably shouldn't have done this, but I started monitoring her activities. It felt wrong, but I just didn't know what else to do. One evening, I saw my mom leaving the house with a man who was definitely not my dad. I followed them to a local restaurant, and I wish I hadn't. I watched as they shared intimate moments, and it just made me feel sick. When I got home, my dad was there, all excited to talk about the trip. I felt so bad for him. A few days later, the day before the trip, my mom got a bouquet of flowers delivered to the house. My dad saw them and thought they were from a friend, and I just wanted to throw up. I decided to send the video I had taken of my mom and the guy to a trusted family friend to get some advice. I needed someone else's perspective because I was just so lost. The family friend suggested showing it to my dad, and I felt this wave of anxiety wash over me. I mean, how could I do that to him? On the morning of the trip, my dad was so excited, packing their bags and all. He had no idea what was really going on, and I just felt so stuck. My mom seemed kind of irritated by the packing and said she wasn't feeling well enough to go, but my dad insisted. He really thought this trip would help her relax and reconnect with him. The drive to the hotel was just so quiet. You could feel the discomfort in the car. After we got to the hotel, my mom got a text that made her visibly upset. I took the chance to step outside and call the family friend for advice again. They just kept saying I needed to be honest with my dad, and it was tearing me apart inside. When I went back to the hotel room, I wanted to tell my dad, but he looked so happy that I just couldn't do it then. I decided to wait until after dinner, thinking it would be easier. Yeah, great plan, right? After dinner, my dad suggested taking a family photo. Like, seriously? I finally built up the courage to show the video to my dad. He watched it, and you could just see the disbelief on his face. It was like he couldn't even process what he was seeing. Then his expression shifted from confusion to just pure anger, and I felt so bad for him. My mom walked in just as the video ended, and things exploded. She denied everything, saying the video was edited to make her look bad. My dad was demanding an explanation, and the argument just escalated from there. She stormed out of the hotel room, and my dad was left speechless. I don't even know what to say, man. My heart is just racing, and I'm feeling so sick. My dad is devastated, like totally shattered. I know I had to show him the video, but I just can't shake off this heavy guilt. I overheard my mom on the phone with the guy from the restaurant, and she was begging him to meet up somewhere else, like close to home. I think she knows my dad won't let this go, and she's trying to cover her tracks. I have no idea how to handle this, and I'm just so scared for my dad. He's been through so much already, and now this. I just want to keep him safe, but I don't even know what that means right now. If anything else goes down, I'll make sure to update. Edit. The video I sent to the family friend was not the only evidence I had. I had been taking photos and videos of my mom's suspicious activities for over a month. I was just so lost on what to do that I felt like I needed to document everything. My dad is still processing what happened and wants to talk to my mom when he's ready. He has no idea about the extent of her betrayal, and I'm scared to tell him. He has a business trip soon, and I'm worried about him going alone. Am I the idiot for feeling like a third wheel in my own home because my boyfriend prioritizes his drinking buddy over me? My partner and I have been together for just over 4 years, and we are very happy together. Obviously, with the cost of living as high as it is here in Ontario, my boyfriend had an idea that we could rent a house instead of an apartment, and his best friend could live in a separate area where he and I both would have privacy from each other, and it would lower the rent cost. I only agreed because we were super rushed to get out of the house and needed a solution quickly, so we went with this. I am a recovering alcoholic who has been sober for almost 4 years, and prior to this arrangement, I was in university, and my boyfriend and I lived with my grandmother to save money while I finished school. We looked for a place to live for a week, found one, and agreed to move in. I believed my partner when he said that his friend would be extremely quiet, and that it would be like he is not even there most of the time. My boyfriend drinks, but is usually respectful of my sobriety and leaves the home if it's going to be a wild night. Anyway, prior to this living arrangement, I was not necessarily on board with living with his friend because he is a big drinker and does drugs occasionally. Usually, when my partner is with him, I stop hearing from my boyfriend, and he usually gets absolutely hammered and does not follow through with what he says is going to happen, such as saying things like, "I'm going to have a few beers," and then the next thing I know, he is absolutely hammered and going out with his friend and is out until 6 a.m. Anyway, I told my partner that we need to establish boundaries before moving in together, and he said, "No, we don't need to do that. My friend will be respectful." So I believed him. We are now all living together and have been for 2 weeks. The situation has changed. We all share the kitchen and the main floor. My boyfriend's friend is always in the kitchen and in the living room, so I have no space to cook dinner for just my boyfriend or have any romantic time. My boyfriend tells me that now we are cooking dinner for 3 every single night, instead of his friend taking care of his own dinner and us taking care of ours. They spend every waking second together. Every weekend I spend by myself while they go out and drink together, cook together, run errands together, go to IKEA, and get things for the house together. They also work together. They do everything together. I feel extremely left out. I have talked to my boyfriend about it, and he just thinks I'm trying to cause problems. But I just want my partner to spend time with me without me having to ask. He tells me, if you want to make dinner for just me, then tell me or ask me, but I don't want to have to ask my boyfriend to spend time with me. He just should. On top of that, while he promised me it wouldn't become a drinking house, there is alcohol in the fridge at all times, and they drink non-stop. They have taken over the entire house, so I only have my bedroom that is mine and private. I just did not realize this is how things are going to be, which was probably naive of me, but I didn't have time to think about anything when we were looking for housing as we were rushed. His friend is not in a relationship, never has been, and is not interested in one. He doesn't really understand what having a girlfriend means. So it's not like he will say to my partner, "Oh, it's been 6 hours, maybe you should check on your girlfriend." He won't say that because he doesn't understand what you are supposed to be doing in a relationship, as he hasn't had one. Whereas when my partner is with friends that actually have girlfriends, they all check on their girlfriends and do not forget about them. Anyway, I don't really know what to do. I am slightly antisocial, so I'm not the type of person to hang out in the group of 3 every single day. I will spend time, but not all the time with him. I value my alone time and my alone time with my partner. Has anyone been in this situation before? I am thinking that maybe he's just excited that he's living with his friend and the nostalgia will wear off. Not sure, but now I have to get used to this as we will be here for a year. I don't want this to ruin our relationship. Thoughts? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. All I can think to do is tell him how you feel. That is always the first step. Your feelings here are definitely valid, and I think most people would have an issue with their partner doing something similar. The alcohol situation can turn into a huge issue if it hasn't become one already. Drinks here and there are fine, but daily drinking destroys people and relationships. Comment 2. I think everyone is giving good advice here, so I'll just say, make food for yourself moving forward. No leftovers for anyone. What does he mean you'll be cooking for 3 people now? Also, you should tell him if things don't change in the house by a certain date that you will be leaving. This is not just about your relationship, but also your mental and physical health. Now for the update. 3 days after my last post, I was chilling in my room while my boyfriend and his friend were out in the living room playing video games together. I overheard the friend joking about how much fun it was to hang out with my boyfriend, making it clear that I was the odd one out. I decided I needed to clear my head, so I went for a walk. I ended up at this local grocery store. While shopping, I ran into an old friend who mentioned that they had heard my boyfriend and his friend were going to a music festival over the weekend. That evening, my boyfriend told me that he and his friend had bought tickets to the festival and that they'd be going without me. I couldn't help but ask why I wasn't invited. My boyfriend shrugged it off, saying it was a guy's outing. I pointed out that we always did things as a couple, but he said it was just a casual trip. His friend then chimed in, joking that I could stay back and enjoy some alone time. The next day, my boyfriend and his friends spent hours planning their festival outfits and discussing logistics for the trip. The festival weekend approached, and I was left alone in the apartment while my boyfriend and his friend left for the event. I spent the weekend cleaning the apartment and trying to stay as busy as I could. On Sunday evening, my boyfriend returned home, clearly drunk and excited. He showed me pictures from the festival, including a group photo with a girl I didn't know. His friend entered the room, joking about how crazy the festival was, making me feel left out again. I decided to go for a walk to avoid confrontation. The next day, my boyfriend and his friend planned a game night and invited several other friends over. During the game night, my boyfriend and his friend got really into the game, leaving me sitting there quietly. My discomfort grew as I overheard the boyfriend's friend making jokes at my expense. I finally snapped and asked my boyfriend to pay attention to me instead of being so into the game. He looked surprised but said everyone was just having fun and that I should join. He followed me, confused, and asked why I was upset. He said he didn't mean to ignore me, but it was just a game night. The argument escalated from there, with him insisting I was being dramatic. He sighed and said he wouldn't let his friend come over as much if it was that big of a deal. Days passed, and the friend continued coming over, leading to more frustration in the apartment. I decided to reach out to my support group online, sharing my experiences. To answer a few questions, my boyfriend and I are in our late 20s and have been together for 4 years. He did know about my issues with alcohol and my preference for a drug-free home. I didn't know the girl in the festival photo, and nothing happened between us, but it still hurt to see. The friend had been over at least 3 nights a week, and I often felt like a third wheel. The group night incident was just one of many times I felt ignored. Since the last argument, things have been tense, but we've mostly gone back to our usual routines. Am I the idiot for cutting off my boyfriend and best friend after they betrayed me and then flaunting my new life? My boyfriend, a 33-year-old man, and I, a 28-year-old woman, opened our relationship and were exploring being polyamorous. We did set ground rules when we initially did this and gave each other a list of people that were off limits from the start. It was all pretty simple stuff, and on my list included my then best friend, a 26-year-old woman. To give some background, my partner and I have been together for nearly 4 years, and I have known my best friend for 10 years. He was the one who suggested we try polyamory because he was curious. At the time, I had no objections. We had been exploring polyamory slowly and were seeing someone together. During a camping trip with some friends, I noticed my boyfriend and best friend were being closer than usual, but didn't think much of it since my partner is an affectionate person and I trusted them. Fast forward a month or so, and my partner told me how he and my best friend had feelings for each other and had for a while, and he wanted her to be his partner alongside me. I was in shock when I first heard this and didn't know how to feel. He told me how they had gotten close and tried to deny how they felt for each other, but couldn't anymore. I talked to them and initially accepted it, although after a few days, the pain began to grow. I brought up how my friend was off limits and how this crossing of a boundary hurt me. We argued for some time, and he basically told me that he can never open up to me because I blow it up like this. I shut down after that and let them stay together. As time went on, the anger and pain grew. Whenever I heard of them together, I wanted to outdo her and force him to choose me. I wanted to show that I was better. As I spiraled, he kept telling me how he cared for me and loved me. He thought it was just depression from family issues. We talked about other issues in the relationship and tried to communicate our needs. I kept trying to tell myself it's fine. Finally, a big event came up for me that he had promised to be there for a year ago. It was my annual art show. When I was reminding him about it, he brought up how he was supposed to be helping some artsy friends that day, and the events were at the same time. He was helping them for 3 weekends in a row. I asked him to please come to my art show, and he initially agreed. Although as we talked about it, he made me feel bad until I gave in and said it was fine for him to miss it. He talked about how he was tired of being a supervisor and wanted to be a participant, and how what he was doing with the group was his way to that. I didn't have it in me to fight. Now, to this past week, he was supposed to help me build a small cat house, which wouldn't take long and just needed some helping hands. We were initially supposed to do it a week ago, but he wasn't feeling good, so it was moved to this Saturday. The plan was for me to go drop off some stuff 2 hours away and then meet up to build this. When I eventually got back, he was off working on something with his art friends. I tried to get a hold of him, but his phone was on mute. When I finally got a hold of him, I was upset, not at being blown off, but at the lack of communication. We had a fight on the phone where he said the same things he's been telling me since he got with my friend. I'm tired, and I think I know what to do, but I'm not sure. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The relationship should have ended the second they both betrayed you. She was off limits, and he went there. Tell them both they are deceitful and you want nothing to do with either of them anymore. Then block them both everywhere. Comment 2. He wanted to sleep with her, and that is why he suggested a polyamorous relationship. He wasn't curious at all. He deceived you. He never intended on following the rules. You deserve so much better than this. Now for the update. 3 weeks since the last update, and wow, things got crazy after that camping trip. So, I caught my boyfriend and best friend hanging out at my apartment while I was away. I know, so cliche, right? I came back early from a weekend trip and found them laughing together in the living room. They didn't notice me at first, so I stood quietly by the door, feeling super uneasy. My boyfriend had his arm around her and they looked pretty cozy. I confronted them right away, asking what was going on. My boyfriend said it was just a friendly hangout and that I was overreacting. My best friend claimed she was just helping him with some art projects. I noticed art supplies everywhere, but it felt like an excuse. A few days later, I got a text from my boyfriend asking to meet at our usual coffee shop. He seemed nervous and didn't look me in the eye when I got there. He told me that he and my best friend kissed during one of their late-night art sessions. I told him that this was not okay and that he had crossed a line. He apologized, but it felt fake since he had already broken our trust. I decided to take a break from both of them to think things through. I spent time with my family to clear my head, avoiding contact with them. My brother noticed I was off and invited me to his place for a barbecue. While there, I got a bunch of texts from my boyfriend begging for my forgiveness. I ignored him and focused on enjoying my time with family. The next weekend, I went to a music festival with my sister. I ran into an old acquaintance who offered to introduce me to some new people. I took the chance to let loose and have fun, trying to forget the drama. While talking to someone new, I got a call from my boyfriend. I let it go to voicemail, not wanting to deal with him. The following week, I got a message from my best friend asking to meet up. I reluctantly agreed, wanting to hear her side of the story. She claimed the kiss meant nothing, just a moment of weakness. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore and that our friendship was over. That night, I went to a local bar to unwind and met a guy who seemed genuinely interested. We hit it off, and I found myself enjoying the attention. I shared a few drinks with him, and it felt freeing to have someone new in my life. I decided to post a photo of us together on social media, captioning it, "Moving on." My boyfriend saw it and blew up with anger in the comments, demanding to know what I was doing. I responded publicly, laying everything out about his betrayal and my decision to move on. My best friend tried to defend him, but I told her she had no place to speak. They both tried to reach out privately, but I blocked them on everything. I spent the next few days enjoying my newfound freedom and exploring new relationships. Just as I thought things couldn't get more intense, I got a message from a mutual friend. They told me that my boyfriend and best friend were dating officially. Honestly, I don't know what to feel right now or what to do next. I'm kind of in shock that they skipped right to dating. Like, did they even think about me at all? Or were they just so happy to jump into their new relationship that they didn't care? I mean, I guess it's good for me that they're officially together and I don't have to deal with their mixed signals anymore. But still, it hurts. I'm still enjoying my freedom and trying to focus on myself and the new people in my life. I'm just not sure if I want to talk to this mutual friend about it. I might just leave it and see if anything else happens. To answer a few questions, I have no idea how long my boyfriend and best friend were seeing each other in secret. I was completely in the dark about it all. As for the guy I met at the bar, we haven't kept in touch since then, but it was nice to have some fun in the midst of everything. My family was supportive when I told them about the situation, and my brother even helped me out by inviting me over for some family time. I haven't spoken to the mutual friend yet, but I might reach out for more details later. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.